And we are back with yet another episode of LCPtracker's E3 series. For those who don't know yet, this is a virtual interview series aiming to engage, educate, and empower the construction community. Just like before, my name is still Tanner Sabaco, and I'll be hosting the show. But today we also have LCPtracker's Business Unit Manager of our Construction Site Compliance Suite, Jeff Douglas. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Tanner. Appreciate you having me.
Well, I know how you've been just dying to get on the show. You've asked me a couple times, so.
Yeah, well, we can't have you hogging all the time now, can we, Tanner?
Well, then, Jeff, I'd like to bestow upon you the honor of introducing our guest on the show today.
Sure thing. Yeah, welcome all the way from Chicago. We've got Vice President of FH Passion, Mary Person. Mary, welcome aboard.
Hey, Mary.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me today.
Yeah, of course. We're very excited to have you. Mary, you've had quite the career so far in the industry, having had worked many years with diversity programs at Chicago Transit Authority prior to even coming to work for one of the larger national contractors in the country, FH Passion. Could you maybe tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Sure. I started off at Chicago Transit Authority actually as a compliance officer. And my job was to monitor the contracts, monitor the diversity goals that was set, and monitor the workforce goals that were set on each project. And fast forward a little bit, I was promoted to manager and then eventually to director. And I actually ran the entire program. So I went from overseeing particular projects to overseeing all the projects that was let out through the authority for both construction and professional services. And then we fast forward a little further. I went to go work at a law firm for about 2 years. I'm not an attorney, but I went to go work at a law firm for about 2 years to get the feel of managing clients and helping with workforce initiatives. And then I ran back into Passion, and they asked me would I come on full time. And I love it. And so currently right now, FH Passion is about a $600 million firm. We have about 400 employees. And so I help to ensure that our strategy around diversity and strategy around people, that we're consistent and help build a culture that is inclusive.
So Mary, where exactly has a tool like LCPtracker Pro fit into the picture throughout the years?
So LCPtracker, I would say, saved our life. So our job, at the CTA was to make sure that the contracts and the procurements that we put out, on the streets, that they were reflectives of the community that we serve. So we had diversity goals and we had compliance goals within respect to workforce, and we had to make sure that that we gave to the community what they needed as far as the workforce and the community goals. And then as a contractor, my job is to make sure that I perform on those goals that those agencies set, but then also to make sure that I am reflective of the community with respect to both the diversity goal set and the workforce goal set as a contractor.
Mary, yeah, one of the reasons I was happy to have you on board here today was as a guest of the show is because you have a wealth of knowledge from both sides of the coin, both from a contractor, general contractor's perspective, as well as public owner, public agency. And as you alluded to, you've worked for organizations that have even used the software beyond the typical prevailing wage collection of certified payrolls. Maybe you could expand a little bit more on how LCPtracker Pro has helped both sides measure and track construction workforce demographics for your specific programs.
So as I mentioned before, our goal, we'll start first at the Chicago Transit Authority, was to ensure that the contracts from the construction side, that our workforce was reflective of the communities in which we serve. And so of all of Chicago, right? And so we needed to be able to show the community what the workforce looked like. And so LCPtracker worked with us to come up with glamorous reports. I'll say glamorous reports that made our community very excited because we got to actually see zip codes. So we can see how many people from a certain zip code was on our project, how many people from certain wards were on the project. WIOA, the Workforce Initiative Opportunity Act. we were able to see how many people fell into that criteria that were working on our project. So LCPtracker got really creative with us and helped us to come up with various reports that then we could take to the community and say, hey, what we're saying we're doing, we're actually doing. Data doesn't lie. It doesn't always tell the whole story, but data doesn't lie. So we were able to then and work with the contractors too. Now on my side, as a contractor, I'm able to show the agency what we're doing and say, hey, this is where we're at with our workforce numbers. This is where we're going to be. We get creative, like I said, with the wards, and it helps us too to say, okay, we've got a lot of workforce coming from this ward. Let's see if we can explore other opportunities for other people in other wards. So those are just some of the creative tools that LCPtracker has helped us to become more creative with our projects and help us build a better workforce program.
I think it's important we're talking about this actually because, although diversity programs and workforce goals may not apply to every project out there, they definitely are starting to become more prevalent, and regardless of whether contractors see them as a positive agent for, revitalizing communities or just some other obstacle that they have to overcome, sooner or later they are going to come across these projects, and it's important that they understand what's required of them. So Mary, I'm curious, prior to being able to leverage a solution like LCPtracker Pro to track a workforce, how hard was it to implement and measure the success of your program initiatives?
So, prior to actually utilizing LCPtracker at the Chicago Transit Authority, there was no way. We were using Excel spreadsheets and we were, I don't want to say manipulating in a way that we were manipulating the work, but we had to use different pivot tables to then grab the numbers, and then we had to, enter the data manually into the spreadsheet, and it was a lot of paper. We were killing trees consistently because we were really trying to make sure the data was as accurate as possible that we were presenting to the community. And so it made it really hard, and it never gave us the ability to be able to take that program to the next level because we were so busy focused on making sure the data was right. We couldn't be creative with the program and come up with other initiatives that could help support the program because we were so focused on making sure the data was there. And so prior to that, it was very difficult. And then from a contractor standpoint, I've worked with a lot of other contractors who aren't using LCPtracker and a lot of agencies. And I feel like sometimes I'm like an LCPtracker rep because I'm like, hey, you guys should really think about using LCPtracker and make your life so much better. And we could blow this program out the water if we had a system like LCPtracker, because our focus then is not so much on putting the data together in a format. It's how can we make the program better? How can we attract more workforce versus, okay, we have to spend a lot of our manpower just putting the data together.
Yeah, Mary, how about ensuring the prevailing wage compliance? Getting down to brass tacks. What was the experience like of producing certified payroll reports, managing, collecting, verifying, auditing from those contractors in the past?
It was quite lengthy. And I can honestly say now, anybody who's still doing the paper process, I can't imagine how they're still doing it. And so, because certified payroll is so important, one, because you're making sure that people's wages are correct, that they're getting the appropriate wages. You're making sure that people aren't cheating, hardworking individuals. So it's a very positive system, and it can be looked at negatively because it's so much work if you don't have a system like LCPtracker. So it can almost seem like a burden to have to do it if you don't have a system like LCPtracker. But the importance behind it is that we're ensuring that people are getting paid the correct wages that they can take home to feed their families. And so I gave you the story of when I first started CTA. We literally were sitting around a table with stacks and stacks of paper certified payroll that had to be gone through to make sure they were accurate. And when it comes down to audits, because at some point in time, everyone gets audited by, one of their governing bodies, that's a paper process. If you don't have a system like LCPtracker where you can show the governing body, hey, this is the system that we're using. These are our compliance data, audit points that LCPtracker has already set up for us. And then they trust the system. So to the point that when an audit comes, we can just print out a report versus having to, provide paper data, certified payroll. And in the instance that they actually want to see the exact certified payroll, we can just print it from LCPtracker. We don't have to go back to the original, contractor to say, hey, I need you to pull certified payroll for these weeks, because certified payroll isn't a monthly thing, it's a weekly thing. And so, we don't have to do that anymore. We can just print the button for that particular subcontractor on that day if we need to. And we can even pull, employee lists to say, hey, was this employee actually on the project at this certain time? What hours did they work? We can pull that employee up, produce a report with that employee, all because of a system like LCPtracker.
Mary, strictly from a contractor point of view, what would you say is the single biggest benefit from using LCPtracker Pro?
It saves manpower and man hours within our office. We have a phrase at LCPtracker, and no one's allowed to steal it, is that our jobs are to bid it, build it, and bill it. And everything else is a distraction to our project managers. And so, having to worry about inputting something like certified payroll into the system is a distraction to making sure the project is built safely. It's a distraction to make sure that the quality in the project and schedule is on time, if they're having to consistently worry about something like putting certified payroll into the system. This alleviates that. This gives our office managers the ability to work on things like making sure that our safety compliance is up to date, making sure that our contractors are paid, in a much more timely basis, instead of worrying about, hey, I got to manually go and check this payroll to make sure that the contractors are getting paid, these workers are getting paid accurately. She cannot focus on that anymore, because LCPtracker has the compliance audit set up to the point that we no longer have to worry about that. We can trust that system. And she can just focus on making sure now the contractors are getting paid, which is going to help small businesses grow in the end.
Well, that's all great stuff, Mary. Hey, look, I appreciate you so much for joining both Jeff and I today on the show. It was great having you. We really appreciate it. You're just full of knowledge, and I think you can help a lot of people out there. But unfortunately, we got to wrap up this show. So thank you again both for joining me. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mary. And everyone else there listening, stay tuned for our next episode of our E3 series.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate the time, Mary and Tanner. Take care.